Hey folks, Nikon have just quietly addressed an issue that I've been talking about for years, and it's just one of about 20 different features that are crammed into firmware version 3.0 for the Nikon Z9. Now it's going live to the public on the 1st of July. I've actually been shooting with it for a couple of days already, and in this video I'm going to run you through the top line details. You can check out my link tree below. It'll have a link to the firmware that you can download for yourself, and you can also check out my Nikon Expert Setup Guide. That's already been updated to include a complete walkthrough of all of the new features of the firmware, and it takes you through every different camera in the system. I also have setup guides for Sony Alpha, Fuji GFX, as well as the Hasselblad range. Full details in the link tree. Now, as I said, in this video, I'm basically going to run you through top line details on what's been included in the firmware and demonstrate a couple of them. Now, what I alluded to at the beginning was the issue that Nikon has had where it'll focus beyond your subject and then not want to come back to find it again. It's something I find a lot when I'm photographing birds. And this is something that I think we're going to be able to completely solve because they've added in-body focus limiter to this guy. Let's head to the park and I'll demonstrate it for you. So let's say you're framing up to shoot some birds on a pond, or you're laying in a hide in the Serengeti waiting for lions to come up to a watering hole. You want to have foreground blur, but you don't want your camera getting distracted by that. You don't want it focusing on the bushes or going to the mountains. And as Nikon cameras do have a tendency to focus in the background and gets lost there, this is a really cool feature. So here I could say, look, I don't want it to get distracted by the bushes. I don't want it going to the brightly lit fence behind Aaron right now. I only want it to get him. So going into focus and then down to A16, focus limiter, turning it on. This is really cool. I can honestly see myself using this a lot. So there's two ways you can do it. I could say, I guess he's, 4 meters away from me. So I'm gonna say the nearest it can focus is 3.6 and the furthest is, let's say 7 meters. So then I'm limiting it to that range. That's one way you can do it. Or I can move my focus point, say, to his camera and use the rear AF on button, and it will meter or read for me what's the distance. So it's saying 2.4, okay? And then let's say for the furthest, the background there, I can use my shutter release and it's saying that's 7.2. Well, I don't want it to be able to get the background. So I'm gonna now just reduce that with the dial to say 5. So basically in 2.4 to 5, there's only him and airspace. So hitting OK, now it's got him. And even if I'm like pushing the bush right in front of him, well, it can't focus on that. It just has to move to the other side of him. This, I think, could be super helpful in challenging focus situations. Now, the new feature that is a world's first on this Z9 firmware version 3 that has most people excited, I think, is the ability to do pixel shift shooting in combination with either exposure bracketing or focus shift. Now this is really cool. You can't do all three of them, but you can do one or the other. So the pixel shift will let you shoot 4, 8, 16 or 32 images and then merge them into gigantic high-res files. Then with auto exposure, you can, for example, take a series of 5, 7 or 9 shots where you're under, then overexposing the shots to bring together a series of super high res, then super different exposures to make a gigantic HDR shot. Or you can do it by adjusting your focus. Say if you're shooting a macro and you want to do 100 shots at 1 millimeter apart to then stack the images to get everything in sharp focus. Or the same if you're wanting to use a fast lens but shoot, say, a big interior of a beautiful foyer of a building, for example, you can do the same thing. Now, they're actually in different places in the menu, which makes it a little bit confusing. In the setup guide, we run you through the whole thing. But let me just show you here. If we go down to our photo shooting menu and then go to pixel shift shooting, here you can decide, yes, you're going to do one or a series of images, the number of shots you want to take, 4, 8, 16 or 32, let's say 32, the delay you want to take, and then it's under options is where you're going to find the exposure option. So here we can go into exposure bracketing. Let's say we'll take 5 shots, all 0.7 of a stop apart, hit OK, and then back. So now bracketing is on. So basically I've told it I want it to do 32 shots to make giant high res, and I want it to do a series of 5 different ones of those. So what's that gonna be? 5 times 32, like 160 frames it's gonna take in total. So I don't think my Atomos will capture that. So let's record the back of the camera. So we can see it's going to do pixel shift and it's going to do 5 exposures. Once I hit it, it'll give me like a second to get my hand out of the way and remove vibration before it starts. So it's going to do 32 shots and then go to the next exposure. 32 shots, next exposure. So 160 shots in total, and we've got all of those brackets and the exposure variable. Okay, I just realized that's only 2 of the points that I've covered so far out of about 20 updates, so we better get a move on. Let's go top line on these. It's adding in maximum aperture for live view. So say I have a 1.8 lens, but I'm shooting it at f4. Normally it will stop down to f4 to show you the depth of field as a real, what you see is what you get. You can have it stay wide open, which is great for when you're shooting at night and you want more light to focus and to see what's going on in the scene. Also, if you're doing focus peaking, manual focusing, to have a small depth of field to make sure you're getting it in the right place, that can be really handy. You also now have the ability to keep your subject detection box on your subject when you're doing high res zoom. Really handy. It used to disappear when you started to zoom in, and then you would wonder if it was still there. You also have the ability to jump back to original image that you've edited in camera as a custom function. So if you're doing image editing in camera, it puts the image you edit at the very end, but it could have been 500 shots ago that was taken. So if you're, say, working with a client and you want to jump back to the original file, you can assign that to a custom button to do that easily in playback. You also now have the ability, when you're doing that editing, to convert to a HEF format on export. Voice memos have been improved. This is kind of a why wasn't this there already, but of course when you're taking a file you can add a voice memo to it, but it was previously only able to do that using the onboard microphone. Now you can do it to any mic that's plugged into the external microphone point, whether that's a corded mic, a shotgun, or a wireless lavalier. You can record your audio memos that way, which if you're interviewing someone that maybe you just took a photo of, that could be really handy. Now this is one for the video guys. If you're shooting ProRes 422 HQ, they've added additional metadata files in there that's going to let your Apple Final Cut Pro know that the model and brand of the camera you are shooting, and it will also let it know if you're shooting an N-Log to automatically apply the N-Log LUT to it without you having to do that as an extra step. In terms of playback, we now have a new option to filter by the date an image was taken, so you can have it just show you the images were taken on a particular date. And if you're filming in N-Log, they've updated the playback essentially for how it looks, so that it looks more realistic. Used to, the tonal curve wasn't really great. That's just been improved. Nothing you need to do. That's just going to be in effect. So that's the top line things that are brand new for the Z8. There's also several things that have now trickled down from the Z9. If you're shooting with ProPhoto lights, the A10 light can now be used as an AF illuminator. Instead of only just using this guy, you can use your external flash as an additional AF illuminator. We've got some improvements to the high frame rate capture. So if we jump in there, open that mode up, you can see we did just before have 30, 60, and 120. Now we also have a 15 frames option. And if we're going into our quality, we have a new menu option there. Down the bottom there, HSFC, you have the option to do JPEG fine instead of just normal. So you can get those really fast frames per second and have it be a fine JPEG, still no RAW option, however. The last one from the Z9 is high frequency flicker reduction presets. So if you're shooting in situations where you're dealing with light flicker and always having to dial in custom settings to counteract that, you can now save 4 different presets to apply when you go back to that same lighting situation. Then trickling down from the Z6 III, we're now getting flexible color picture control support. So if you like to edit in Nikon's own NX software, or there's a particular style that you like to do, like you add color to the shadows, or you flatten out your tone curve, or whatever it is, you can do that in Nikon's NX software, make a preset, put it onto a card, bring it in here, and then see it in as a preview rather than just waiting until you're in the edit. So that could be helpful. Just note that unlike the Z6 III and others that can do that wirelessly, here you have to bring in those presets via a card. Now, another one that personally I'm the most excited about, they say it's coming from the Z6 III, but it was also on the ZF, is subject detect options in manual focus. So you can see here I'm in autofocus, it's finding Aaron's eye there, no problem. Very overexposed, but still. But when I go to manual focus, it can't find him. It doesn't have subject detect. Well, now you're able to enable that. So going into your photo shooting menu down to manual focus detection area, here you choose which modes you want it to apply to. So I'm just going to put it in all, and then your detection options. So we have all of that. And I currently am already in my eye menu. You can see I'm on, when I'm in autofocus, I've put it to people. So I'm in manual focus, you can see that there, my lens is on manual focus, but it finds him, which is great. So I'm out of focus, it can't see him, and then when it gets close enough, it finds him. Great thing about that is that wherever he is in the frame, even if he's moving around, then I press the zoom in, it keeps me on the eye. So there's his eye, great. Then we're recomposing, it's found his eye over there, I hit zoom in now, and we're able to get in right there. Really handy. And this is bringing across the ability to zoom into 400% like we had on the ZF, which is so good for being able to confirm your manual focus. That, I think, may be the thing that I'll use the most on this update. Another cool one, we are able to further customize our custom focus areas. So if we go in to our area mode, and then go to C1 or C2, these are the ones that have been updated, then you can see I have so much more flexibility for how big I want to make the boxes or what shape I want to make them. So let's make it really unusual. Let's make it really skinny, but then really long. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to select C1, and you can see it's there. And we're able to put it right up against the corners of the frame. We weren't able to get that close to the edge before, and we didn't have that many shape options. So that's really handy. So fair play to Nikon, some really great updates there. It's so cool to see them updating. I mean, the Z9 is not even the same camera that it was when it was first released, and the Z8 is shaping up just great. Check out my link tree. You can see the Nikon setup guide there, as well as the firmware, which will go live on the 1st of July. And I guess the obvious follow-on questions then are, which of these features are you going to hope trickles across to the other cameras in the system? And importantly, what other features do you wish had been included in this firmware? I'm guessing top of most people's list is pre-capture in RAW. Let me know. I'll see you guys soon.